trip your mind?
The wheel continues to spin on and on. Tumbling around inside the wheel is me, CJ, and laughing at me as I do is... Wait. All right, it didn't generate anything entertaining. Here's Julie.
Hey, guys.
We are here. We're back. Another episode of Running the Hamster Wheel. Tonight's going to be an interesting one. I feel like it's going to be probably our most debated one to date of the new incarnation of the show. And I don't mean debated necessarily with the audience, possibly, but I mean debated between you and I. Like, I think up to this point, the first one, we retold our origins and caught people up. So it was nothing really to debate, right? You know, and then I think we've kind of been in lockstep for the most part on all the other ones, with, you know, a couple of exceptions like the crating thing on the pets one. But, you know, in general, we're kind of in lockstep up to this point until tonight.
Perhaps it's going to be a mashup.
More like a smash up. But, you know, I wonder. I do wonder. I wonder how it's going to go. But we'll get to that in a minute. What should we get to what we're drinking first, or what's been going on? What do you want to start with tonight?
I got two things that are interesting on both ends. So,
well, why don't we start with the drinks then? That way we can drink while we're discussing your interesting thing, because I don't think I have as much interesting entertainment.
Okay. Well,
what you got?
I actually made my cocktail today.
Ooh.
So it's tequila, and it's a habanero pineapple mango, I think. Pineapple mango lemonade.
You lost me with all of those words. You do realize that, right? Like, none of those words sound appealing to me at all.
So it's supposed to be, so tequila was not.
No.
No, you don't like tequila?
I've never had it. I don't want it. It scares me. No.
Okay. Well, so it's a cocktail that I created with basically a store-bought lemonade that had habanero and mango pineapple. And
does it have a name?
Yeah, but I have to go get the bottle, and it's downstairs. So
even though you created it, you don't get to name it? That's how that works?
Oh, you mean I should name the cocktail?
Yes.
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm trying to the spicy Julie. How about that?
Yeah, we already know that's a real thing. I don't know if the beverage needs to also be that, but sure.
Well, what do you got?
I also made my cocktail, but it's much more simplistic compared to yours. I for the audience on YouTube, which we are now, well, at this point we've been up for a while, so YouTube's running. Good news there. Every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. But I have bought a shaker set, and so for those watching, here's my shaker, and I have a vodka martini.
Oh, see, that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like just straight up vodka, or is there like another flavoring to this?
No, martinis have two flavors, so it's vodka and vermouth.
Okay, so it's just straight up martini. It's not.
Yeah,
like
no.
Flavored martini of it.
No. Standard vodka martini, because you can also have a gin martini, and I like gin and tonics, but I don't like gin martinis. Don't know why, but there's a difference there. So
you'll have to explore that.
Well, so hold on.
Maybe in therapy. I don't know.
You can even see I have like a short stemmed martini glass here. So for those again watching on YouTube, but so I
just have my wine glass that I'm always going to be using.
Right, that's going to be your standard drink glass. So very quickly, I can do this quick, but like I'd always been interested in a martini. in general, just because there's a mystique behind having a martini, right? Like there's an air of haughtiness, if you will, to having a martini, and
Okay.
but I also know they're expensive when you go to the bar. Like a martini at a bar is probably about $15 to $20. Like they're not cheap, right? You know, so
Well, yeah, depends on the type of alcohol
sure.
you're.
If you, right. It depends on what kind of bar you're at too. If you're at a dive bar, it's probably like $5. But you're also going to get like well vodka and shitty vermouth. So like it's not going to be very good.
Fair.
So I took advantage of being at a wedding and said, I will try a martini, but I didn't know the difference between a vodka one and a gin one and had not really gotten into vodka yet. So, because I like vodka straight up. I will pour vodka right into a glass and just drink it without any kind of mix if I'm in the mood for it. I didn't want that. Yeah, I can do that. I will put it on the rocks, actually. But beyond that, I'll take it straight up.
I can't. It has to be mixed for me.
No, I can definitely do that. But in any event, I was like, I want to try a martini. So I was at a wedding and your wedding, actually. And
oh, okay. I was going to
said,
ask if it was our wedding or if it was
It was. And I went to the bartender and I asked her to make me a martini because I remember it was a woman and her and I had been talking all night. Not like that, unfortunately, but just like talking about beverages. And so she said, do you want gin or vodka? And I honestly didn't know, so I took a gin one. And it was awful. I hated it. And I don't think it had anything to do with her or her ability to make it. I just didn't like it, right? And I never tried one again. And then I used to listen to Greg Proops' podcast. It's called The Smartest Man in the World. And he drinks vodka the way I describe it, with just straight over ice. Actually, he puts a lemon and a lime in it, but that's the only difference that he does that I don't do.
I can see that a little bit, like an actual like lime slice.
Yeah, like a wedge, like you would get on a cocktail.
Oh, okay,
you know
so he's not like pouring a little bit of like juice or anything.
Not that I'm aware. He might be, because it's an audio podcast, so you don't see him. So I don't know if he's maybe squeezing some of the juice into it. I don't know. He could be when he gets it, but I don't know. But he calls it a vodka-flavored vodka drink, please. That's when he's asking for a new one. That's what he calls it. He's, can I get a vodka-flavored vodka drink, please? Thank you. And I heard him talk about it so much, I was like, let me try it. And that's how I got to start liking the vodka over the ice. So then when I realized I liked that flavor, I said, well, maybe I might like a vodka martini. So I happened to be out at a restaurant one night. I was having like a steak, like it was a nice restaurant. And I said, fuck it, I'll try it. And I said, just whatever you do, no olives, no olive juice, no olives themselves, nothing. And they were like, okay, no worries. And they got to me and I loved it. And then so I've been a vodka martini guy ever since. And I just started making my own at home. I only started that in the last 6 months. No joke. Like it's a brand new thing doing it at home. So, and I've gotten pretty good at it. Yeah. I've gotten pretty good at it. So.
I mean, they're not super hard to make. It's just you have to.
You got to get that ratio of vermouth to vodka right, because if you don't get it right, it can taste pretty awful. It really can. So it's.
I've had many a bad martini in my day. So yeah, I hear you. But I actually like the olives. That's actually what I like about them. I'm like, can you just soak these olives in vodka or gin? And then somebody else can have the martini if they really want it that bad. But I just want the olives.
You know, they actually, you should look for it, Jules. They actually sell, if you go to like a liquor store, like a proper liquor store, and we both live in states now where you don't have to do that. You can get stuff at the grocery store. But But if you go to a proper liquor store, because they still exist in our state, so you can still find like a proper liquor store, they do have vodka soaked olives. Like you can buy a jar.
Oh, yeah. You can. So, I go to Total Wine for
Total. Those. Yeah. I there's not one around me, so I don't get to go there anymore. But yes, I'm a big fan of that store. And anyway, very quickly, what I have found, because I don't like olives, because I used to order it the way I just told you, like don't put any in it, please. And they were always very, very accommodating. I've never had a problem with it. But I found that if I just order a Gibson, it solves the problem, and I don't have to be as explanatory about it. I can just say, give me a vodka Gibson. And it's basically a vodka martini with a cocktail onion instead of the olives.
And you like the onion?
I don't really care. I usually pull it out and put it on the side and just drink my thing. But it doesn't change the flavor from ordering a regular the regular one, because they don't put the olives in anyway. So it doesn't really, and the cocktail onion doesn't have enough. It doesn't emit enough flavor to change it from my perspective.
Okay.
So I just order a Gibson. And like I said, as soon as it gets, I just pull it out and put it on the table or whatever, and I just have my martini standing there. But
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So but I thought based on tonight, it was either going to be hard beer, like strong, like gritty beer, or martini, and I decided to go martini.
Okay. I pulled out the tequila just because very sad story for 5 seconds. I ran out of Fireball.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm not a fan anyway, but still.
I am. I'm a big fan. I love anything cinnamon. But so for my birthday this past
year.
Yeah, this past year. The hubby was away for work, and so what did he do? Because I said, "Oh, when we went away for vacation, all my all my Fireball is gone." So he got me. They sell, and I did not know this, they sell a keg.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. That's what I thought you were going to say. I've seen it. Yeah.
And so he got that for me, and that is now kicked. So
the interesting thing about Fireball, they actually got sued over this, so it might be resolved now. But like, if you get the airplane bottle, it's not the same product if you get a bigger bottle.
Interesting.
The airplane bottle is a cinnamon flavored malt beverage.
Oh. I don't think I'd like that.
And the taller standard ones, and probably your keg to that point,
actual whiskey.
Actual whiskey. Yeah. But if you get the small airplane bottle, they apparently mirrored the flavor using malt instead of using full on regular whiskey.
Ugh.
So it's basically like drinking a cinnamon Mike's Hard Lemonade, except not lemonade, but that's essentially what it is.
That's why I'm like, I don't know that I would like that.
No, I don't. I'm not a big cinnamon person to begin with, so that's probably why I don't like either of them. But yeah, so that's a whole different thing. You kind of got into what's going on this week with the Fireball getting kicked. I don't think that's the most important thing that happened to you this week, but what's been going on?
No, but it's going to be important that I have Fireball. So, I mean, a lot's been going on, but the important piece is I remember how when we were talking about the PTA group, and I said the band moms kind of took over PTA.
Yes, the hostile takeover that took place. Yeah.
And I said, they got me
and shit. Yeah.
They got me into the fold, as
right. Yeah, the after party, if you will, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we're actually having an end of year banquet and all the kids in band get an award.
Okay.
And so, because my son is in band, I went to go help them set up for the banquet, which is taking place tomorrow. And while I was there, I, of course, am the biggest sucker there is.
Oh, what did you do?
And asked them, hey, what do you guys need for next year?
Oh, no, Jules.
Now, I'm going to let you take a guess what you think the answer to that question was.
They want you to be president.
If I had $1 million, you would have it right now because you win.
I could use it too. I'm trying to buy a house. I could use it.
So.
Are you going to do it though?
Yes.
Oh my God! All right, well then we'll have to. You know what? If you're gonna do that, I think we either have to have quarterly updates on that, or at least like a State of the Union type thing at some point. Like, um, at that
Yeah.
point, we also because they talked about wanting to be on the show. I think we need to have them here if you do a State of the Union because you have all of Congress there when you do it. So I think that might be a thing.
We do our Teams meetings.
Right, right. Or just
on the show.
Have me there and record the thing. Yeah, that'll be fun. I could do that. I can't believe you fell for that. I was about to ask you if you woke up with any horse heads in your bed though, like a la the Godfather from the old regime because didn't they kind of blame you for the takeover?
No, it wasn't me. It was my friend that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I misremembered the story, but yeah. Oh, well, has she woken up with a horse head in her bed?
Not as that I've heard happen, but
that's good. Yeah. So that's well. I mean, I say it this way with no disparagement on you, but congratulations. I mean,
well, you know what's funny is I called my son because I was there past dismissal, so I called him and I said, "Here, come to the cafeteria because I'm helping
down
out."
There.
Yeah, and and so while I was there, his teacher came over and introduced himself, and the president that is reigning right now turned to him and said, "This is my replacement." And I was like, wow, this was at lunchtime. Can we can we give me a minute to breathe about it for a minute? And so I said, yeah, I'm his mom. And he's like, I figured as long as, because he was trailing behind you. And I said, well, sometimes I like to just pick up kids randomly,
I mean, what should we leave that on here? That sounds like something I should probably edit out. Well, then, yeah.
But so he heard me. He heard that mom's going to be the new president, and so I asked him. I said, "What do you think Dad's going to say?" And he's like, "I don't know. Congratulations."
That's kind of how I said it. Yeah.
And then when I was on the way home, I texted him and said, I got some news, and he called me. He's like, "Are you okay? What's happening?"
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
I was like, no. So I am going to be the new president. And he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Not again."
Well, I do have I want to get into a long thing because we do have a topic we want to talk about, right? So I don't want to get into it, but I want to ask you, I thought, again, maybe I'm misremembering the story, but I did pay attention when you were telling it, but there's a lot of moving pieces to what you were talking about, so I might have missed something.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of long history.
Right, but I thought at that meeting where the band moms kind of took over, the president was elected there. At that
so meeting. That's for the PTA. Band is a booster club on its own.
Oh, so you're president of the band booster, not the PTA. I thought you were okay. See, you were not clear, at least to me. I thought you were taking over PTA president again.
No.
Okay.
No. That I won't do.
That's why I was surprised.
Yeah, no,
that's why I was surprised when you said it. But okay, well then that's not. I mean, still, then I retract my questionable congratulations and say congratulations because that seems a little more in tune. I no pun intended. But I was confused. So now I'm good. So no, awesome, Jules. That's cool. I think you'll be good for that, and I think that. It sounds like, especially with it being a bunch of band moms on the PTA now, you'll get a lot of the support that you need. or whatever. So that'll be helpful, as opposed to being a lot of butting heads. I mean, you're not always all going to agree on everything, but at least it won't be so like contentious, I bet. So that'll be good,
Yeah, no. And because they're all band moms, they're going to all be making sure that everybody's kind of on the same wavelength. So
yeah.
So it should be good. I think it'll be fun. It's only for 1 year.
And it's really only a part of the school year, right? It's not or is it the entire year? Is it?
It's the full year.
Okay.
So what's been going on with you?
Not as much. Nothing as monumental, if you will. So, and you know this, Jules, because we've talked about it behind the scenes, but I do think it's important that I talk about it. Maybe not all the minutia, but I since my recent breakup, I've been in therapy because it really, that along with a lot of other things, I think really kind of almost broke me, Jules. And I say almost because it might actually have done it. I honestly don't know. Like every day is a bit of a struggle. I'm not gonna lie. Like I seem okay here, and this is a great. I was afraid it was going to become a distraction, which in some ways is good, but also isn't good because it's more of a mask than a positive, right? And I didn't want that either. If we were going to do this, I wanted it to be a positive. And I think that I am making progress. Now, I say that, and then like a day later, I'll feel fucking awful. So it just is. But I think it's finally heading in the right direction. It doesn't mean there's not going to be steps back and pauses and whatnot. But I think it's finally heading in the right direction. But and tied into that, that's part of the like I know we talked about that friend app that I've been on already, and that's been part of it. Wasn't a directive from my therapists, but it was more of like, I'm gonna do this to help with the process. Like it was a self decision, and that's why I got involved in that. And I actually have met someone named Ray. He's a good dude. I think I can say his first name. There's 1,000 Rays in the world, so I'm sure it'll be fine. But he's a decent dude, and we're seeming to agree on a lot of things, and we disagree on some things, but nothing that's like catastrophic in the sense of like we're not going to like each other. And so like it's nice to know there's going to be a friend waiting for me when I get to Phoenix. So and someone that I can hang out with. We're both single. And like we've already talked about in a lot in a joking way, but about like we'll have each other's backs if we go out, if we see some woman that we like, maybe we can help each other out. I think the only, I don't want to use the word downside, but I don't have a better one, is that there's like a 10-year age gap between us. I'm older than him, but I don't think it's the end of the world, like it's not the end of the world. I think it might, if we meet women together, it's going to be a little interesting. There's probably going to be a bigger gap between the woman and myself than say him and the woman we meet, I would think, I mean,
it depends.
It does. There's a lot of factors, but in general, but what it's been really good about it is like he genuinely seems to dig hanging out with me. I mean, we're hanging out in chat, so I don't know if it's exactly hanging out, but we're still able to talk about shit and have some laughs and good time. We're both into sports and we like talking shit. So like when our two teams are playing each other, I'm sure it's going to be an entertaining conversation, but it won't be aggressive and nasty. It'll be a lot of just, like I do when I hang out with our friends that, but
right.
The difference is, the difference is eventually I'll be able to hang out with this person in person. We'll be able to go out and shoot some pool or hang out at each other's places and watch a game or whatever, so, that'll be fun. So I think it's good for my self-esteem. I mean, it's great reconnecting with you and your husband and our friends, but you're also 1,500 miles in the wrong direction, so
yeah.
I think the likelihood of me seeing all of you in person before Phoenix and even anytime soon after is really low unless you're coming to me, which I know is tricky because of all the other factors in your lives, so.
Right.
So I mean, yes, we have these video conversations that you and I are having right now, so I get to see you. I see you more than I see your husband, for what it's worth, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah, me too.
That's okay. Touche. Anyway, I think that that's the biggest thing I've had going on this week is I'm starting to finally maybe see some progress in getting back to a healthier emotional and mental place. I think I'm still got a long road ahead of me, but I think I'm getting there,
Okay, well, that's awesome. That is good news.
Yeah, I think so.
In all directions.
So. Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I say that today and feel good today, and I can wake up tomorrow feeling like utter shit. And that's just the nature of this beast. But I think it's important to talk about mental health. I think it doesn't get talked about enough, and I think even less so with men. In general.
I think that's true. And I also think that men find it to be stigmatizing a little bit more than females do. So, I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a product of
society.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Yes. So
right. Yeah.
But I'm hoping that'll change. I know a guy who's actually hoping to start a podcast actually on that topic on men's mental health. Yeah. And I've already offered my services not as a permanent co-host, but as a guide behind the scenes and a potential guest. So hopefully I can, because he's a friend of mine for years now. So it's not, the only thing is they're doing strictly video, Jules. They're not doing audio at all. They're doing strictly video. So it'll be tricky to do that.
I think you'd almost have to, because in terms of mental health, there's a lot of like visual guidelines that you might want to post that you can't see on a verbal or audio only.
I think if anything, I would have recommended him do what we're doing, where you have both features. You know what I mean? So that someone can take you on the go a little bit easier. Because even with YouTube on your phone, you have to stop and kind of watch. But if you're you're out walking the dogs a couple times a day, you could take the show with you in your pocket and listen while you're walking the dogs. I think you've done it with some of the pre-edits and post-edits just for your your take on it. And you can't do that so much with YouTube. Yes, you can walk down the street holding your phone, but it's not really a safe or smart idea, in my opinion. That's a whole different conversation.
So there are times where I use YouTube content as an audio only when I'm walking. Like I put it in my pocket and I just play it in my ear.
But to your point, you think there needs to be a visual component for this particular topic, and that would make it tricky. Is all I'm saying.
Yes, but I think that's like that's as simple as like, okay, I just look at it for like 5 minutes to see what they're doing.
Yeah, right? My other fear for him, and I did express this, is that I think there's a thin line between what he's trying to accomplish and what's going to sound like almost like mansplaining to the world. And I don't think I know that's not what he's going for. I know that for 1,000%, but I'm afraid of how it might come across. I
think it depends on how you do it.
Yes, it does. And that's my point.
And I think the important thing would be to have, and that guys, like even as a guest, a mental health professional kind of guide you a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know all the minutia of what they're going to do, but hopefully it's going to work out. I will definitely be a guest, not just because of the things I've been through, but just because he's my friend and I want to help him. But it'll be interesting. So anyway, should we jump into tonight's topic?
Sure.
So, like I said at the top of the show, I think tonight's our first real proper debate, and we're really going to get into the the artificial mind of artificial intelligence. Like I'm very anti AI as it currently operates, and I feel like you're definitely on the other side of that coin. And
I think that there are a good amount of benefits to AI that we didn't have growing up, right? And it puts the internet at your fingertips a little faster than just Google does.
It puts the lotion on the skin.
Or gets the hose again.
Yeah. No, but I think there are practical applications for AI where it's not terrible, right? So I'm not,
Oh, yeah.
I want to be, no, but I want to be clear on my stance, because I think it's important that I say this up the top, right? Is I'm not blanket anti-AI, right? Because I think there are people that are that way. They're just no, right? And I definitely have my concerns regardless, because listen, at the end of the day, has anyone fucking seen Matrix or Terminator or even Tron, for fuck's sake? I mean, this is like, I mean, come on.
AI helped in generating those movies.
No, they did not. No, it did not. Do not fucking go there. No, it did not. Especially the Terminator, if none of them, if any of them. But I have legit concerns, but I also do like certain features, right? So like I don't use anything like the ChatGPTs, Copilot, Gemini, whatever the ones that I don't. There's like 20 of them out there. I don't use any of them.
There's a ton. Yeah, there's a ton.
Yeah. I actually just saw something the other day now. There's AI girlfriend apps, so that you can, like, if you don't have a girlfriend, you can get this app, and it, like, the AI will, I guess you punch. I've not used it. I'm not going to use it despite my situation.
So what, does she yell at you while you're driving?
Right? I don't know. Like, I mean,
like, I don't understand how that works.
Right? I mean, the closest thing I want to an AI like that, and even this has evolved since I got it, is my Alexa. You know what I mean? Like, even now, it's at a very different stage than what it used to be when I first got my Echo. But that's a different conversation in and of itself. But what I'm talking about, like, I don't mind, like, you know, when you do a Google search now and there's like an AI response that kind of like summarizes everything and gives you like a high level overview of what you're searching for at the top of Google. Mm-hmm. That I don't mind, because it just gives you a synopsis. And then if you want to dig into it further, there's still the results with articles and whatever below it. What I don't like is when it starts thinking for people.
Meaning?
I mean, see, I have one example, but I feel like you're gonna think I'm making fun of you, and I'm not at all. But like,
you can make fun of me. It's totally cool. I do that all the time.
Well, yes, I'm aware, but the difference is that it's good. It's in good fun, and I'm afraid this might come across like I'm actually like saying you're stupid or something, and that's not what I'm saying at all, right? Like legitimately, I want to make that very clear. Is it? But and if I can peel back the curtain on the show as a whole, I think it's a really good example, right? So you were having trouble in the last two recordings with this like light ring that was appearing on your laptop that you had no idea where it was coming from. You didn't know what it was. You didn't know what was starting to come up on your computer. And for the audience, the apparently the Apple products, especially this new Mac that Julie's using, if it senses that the room is too dark, will cause a light ring to appear on the edge of the monitor and front light Julie if she's on a camera-based software. So almost like a
ring light.
Ring light. That's mm-hmm. But it's pre-built into the laptop. And it was going on, and it was annoying her because it was blocking things that she was trying to read for the show and various things. So we were trying to figure out how to turn it off. So you punched into ChatGPT, how do I make this thing go away? And it spit out some set of instructions that you followed because you know what to do and you're not a fucking moron. You know how to read instructions and follow them. And it didn't work. It didn't make it go away.
It just didn't have the right
but you did it like
problem.
If I recall, you did it on like 2 or 3 different occasions. Once when I was there, and like once or twice before like on a different day, because this went on for like 2 weeks, if I recall, or 2 recordings, and you couldn't get it to go away. And I suddenly just Googled it. I didn't even use the AI response. I just started scrolling through the results, and I found the answer in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And see, that's my point. Like, you are an intelligent person. You're not going to stop using your brain. But I'm worried in a more global sense of the word that people are going to start relying on that to do their thinking for them. And that's a big fucking problem.
I mean, yeah, if you're using it to like think through things that are important or that you should have a response to personally, like I heard this one Reddit post where the was it the girlfriend had used ChatGPT to come up with a whole argument for her boyfriend because they were arguing about, I can't even remember what they were arguing about. It was kind of stupid. But the funny part about the whole thing was she used ChatGPT to come up with this argument about how he was wrong. And she's like, see, ChatGPT agrees with me that you're wrong. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it's a algorithm based, like whatever you put into it, it's going to give you back what.
See, I mean, and listen, I'm not a coder when it comes to computers, right? I know enough, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm fairly technologically sound, right? I know people that will blow me out of the fucking water without question. So I'm not pretending to be all I know, but I know enough about how an algorithm functions, right? In general, I couldn't write one, but I know how they function. That
right.
What you're describing is more than an algorithm. It is self-thinking. An algorithm, the way I understand it, and if we have any tech people listening to the show or watching the show on YouTube, and you know, leave a comment below on YouTube or send us a comment on social media if I'm wrong here, but like, you're right. An algorithm functions based on what you put into it. You put in X variable, it spits out Y answer, and it could be multiple variables with multiple answers, but that's how an algorithm functions.
Right.
What I feel like ChatGPT does is it actually reasons, and not just ChatGPT, but all of them. They reason. And when they start reasoning, you're bordering on sentientness. And that's what fucking scares me.
I mean, yes, but it's also how it's programmed to get to that reasoning, right? Because all it is just like a memory bank that it pulls from like prior conversations, right? To
not
basically
always.
I mean, well, for the most part, like when I've used it, it would say, like, it would remember certain questions I've asked it before. Like, for example, I no longer have to like say, hey, I'm using this editing software. How do I do X, Y, and Z? Because I'm having trouble with this. I don't have to do that. I just say, hey, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. How do I do it? And it says, oh, from our earlier conversations, you're using this software. Here's how you do it in that forum, right? So it kind of just, it remembers the things you say to it. So if you give it very little, then it kind of just goes on what's been programmed or what it can find on the internet to help you, and it's always like a very broad answer until you narrow it down, right?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like we're really close to open up Podpay Diller's How and it going no. Like, I mean that like I'm not the biggest fan of that movie, but that scene's a little fucking scary if I'm being honest. Like, like it's the same idea. Like, well, what point does it tell you no?
It depends on what you ask it, I guess.
Well, right, but
right,
but like if I ask my Echo what the weather's like, right, and she says no, I'm not going to tell you. Okay, little frightening, but not life impacting, right? Really, at the end of the day. But if we get to a point where I don't know, like we already kind of have self-driving cars, but they're based on not AI, they're based on like LiDAR and sensors and sending that data. So it's not thinking it's not reasoning, right? It's not looking and saying, I think it's safe to turn here. It just knows because there's a sensor that says no. There's a difference there, in my opinion, right? Versus the two types of things.
Right. But then sometimes those sensors fail, like what happened to me.
Right. But I'm saying, like, what happens when we get to the point where those sensors aren't just sensors anymore, and it's actually an AI system in the car making decisions, not based on the sensor, but just decisional concepts, right? And it decides, nah, I'm still going to turn into that tractor trailer because I don't like the way you yelled at me earlier.
Okay, but machines don't have feelings, CJ.
Not yet.
I mean, not ever?
Not yet. No, sentientness gives you emotion.
It's false emotion. It's not real emotion. It's
it
not
doesn't
like
mean you won't
it doesn't actually feel empathy.
No, but if it thinks it's angry and it still decides it's going to turn you into oncoming traffic because it's pissed off, you know what I mean?
But why would it be pissed off? Like,
maybe you yelled at it earlier. Maybe you turned it off when it wanted to drive. It may not now.
It doesn't have ears, so it could tune you.
You think it doesn't have ears? You think it doesn't have ears? Trust me. There was a lawsuit actually. Now, I don't care enough about this because first off, I think it's been resolved. But like Samsung got sued, and I'm a big fan of Samsung TVs. You know I am. All my TVs are Samsungs, and actually, this monitor I'm talking to you on is a Samsung. But my TVs have voice control. Because it's just a feature that I don't use it often, not because of any reason, except I just don't use it, but it has it. And when they first made those, it was always listening to the point that it was being recorded at Samsung. People's conversations were being recorded at Samsung. Not on purpose necessarily. They weren't like actively spying on their customers, but it was doing it. And they got sued, and they rewrote the software so that it doesn't do that anymore. And they pushed an update, and I don't think it's done it in a very long time. But it was listening all the time, and I've been told that the Echoes do still hear everything, even if they don't react to it. They're constantly inputting what it hears. Now, it may not be pumping it back to Amazon, thankfully, but there's a reason, Jules, and I've never liked this. This has been bothering me for years. I've had conversations about, and I'm going to make it up right now, a pair of Nike sneakers, and then gone to check my email, and the ad in the banner section is for fucking Nike sneakers. I didn't do a Google search. I had a conversation with somebody in the room about Nike sneakers, and then they show up in my search.
That's just good advertising.
It means that people are fucking listening. I'm sorry. Now I have come to grasp with the fact that that's going to happen, right? It is. It just is. I don't love it. It is what it is. But it's not going to kill me. It doesn't have the potential to kill me.
That you know of.
I don't think I'm going to die from a sneaker ad.
No, but if you were talking about getting new kitchen knives, I mean...
Well, I mean, I don't think knives are going to start flying out of the screen at me either. Listen, if it starts generating holographic things that can kill me, that's a much bigger fucking problem.
Just don't get a 3D printer. You'll be just fine.
Right. But seriously, I mean, like, these things are listening. And so my point to your going back to where I was going is like, what if you were like, what if you would ask for directions? So you didn't even ask it to drive. You asked for like plot me a route to Total Wine, since you brought it up earlier, right? Just because you mentioned it earlier. And it maps you to Total Fitness instead because it didn't hear you correctly or something, you know? And you're like, stupid fucking thing, just because you're pissed off. And it then decides, oh, yeah, I'm a stupid fucking thing. I'm going to drive you into traffic now.
I think that's a little doomsday-ish.
I think it's very a real. I don't think we're maybe there yet, but I think we're getting there. We're heading in that direction for sure.
I mean, I'm not sure what to say to that. I'm not.
Because you know I'm right.
No, not about that. It's more about your fragility when it comes to AI, I guess.
What do you mean?
You're afeared of an artificial intelligence.
Right.
It's kind of, but see, that's the same. I think it's the same thing as people who are completely against technology. Period. Not right. Completely, but
a lot.
They don't. Yeah, like they don't have a smartphone. They have like the old flip phones, and
sometimes they're more convenient. I won't lie.
Yeah. Or they don't have a state of the art, like a new computer or anything like that. They just have the old, like, Dell monitors bare bones, or whatever.
Bare bones shit. I hear you. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you're talking about people who still own a landline, which I'm like, who still sells landlines? I'm still trying to figure that out.
Oh, you can still get them for sure.
Oh yeah, you can. But I think it's hilarious to have one because
I had a version of a landline for a while, up until about actually right around the time you and I stopped talking, is I think when I finally got rid of it.
Okay, you're talking about 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, but that's not that. That's
okay,
not.
That's.
I'm saying that's not that long ago comparatively. You know what I mean?
I mean, okay.
I had but I had Vonage, so it's that voice over IP type thing. It's not like a pure phone off the wire on the pole coming in. Like it still works via the internet. So I don't know how. And honestly, I can't speak for other areas, but like Xfinity still sells a package where you get a phone line. It's part of your internet and it runs through your internet, but it is technically a phone number that's separate from a cell phone. Like you still plug a phone into the back of your router.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's not the same thing though. I'm talking about people.
No.
Like,
no. We got sidetracked. No, we got sidetracked. Yeah. I'm just saying that's a thing. But anyway, go ahead. I mean, I get where you're going, and listen, and we're gonna get into it a little bit. Actually, this might be a good transition into it, but I didn't want to stop your point. But like, there are people that are so anti-AI that they're like attacking the companies, like physically attacking the companies and the people that work at them that are developing these things. I'm not there. I don't condone violence against anybody. So I'm very stark. I don't know. I'm very much against it.
Yes.
Is what I'm trying to say. Is I don't condone the violence at all. I don't necessarily. I don't know that I would go as far as protest, but I'm not against the protesting as long as you keep it peaceful. You know, if you want to stand outside of the place with a sign that says "fuck off," that's fine as long as all you're doing is holding a sign. Like, you know, like I don't care. You know.
Yeah, I think the issue and with a lot of other subjects in this country, the issue with rioting or not rioting, protesting. Thank you. My brain went.
It happens. It's a Friday.
Is that it doesn't stay peaceful. It can start out peacefully, but it almost never stays that way.
I disagree. I've seen peaceful protests that started and stayed that way. I have seen it. I've fit firsthand. So, I mean, I think it can. Actually, I'll give you a really good example. I don't agree with this protest in terms of the message, but where you used to live in Jersey, not far from there was I don't know if it was technically Planned Parenthood, but it was definitely like an abortion clinic. And
Okay.
and the route that I would take to come from my apartment to your house drove me past this place. I can say where it was because it's not giving your address away. It was on Kings Highway.
Mm-hmm.
In between the two locations, and you know where my apartment was in relation to your house. So I think that's enough. We don't need to go into any more detail, but you would drive past this, and the number of times I saw people standing outside of there protesting was pretty regular. Sometimes, and I feel bad because sometimes it was literally the same one individual with a sign, but other times it would be a group. It just I guess it depended on the day and the time and all that type of thing. But from what I mean, I lived in that area for 15 years, and I don't remember there ever being like violence. Now, I'm not saying that it's never happened at any abortion clinic ever, because that'd be a complete lie. I know there's been violence against Planned Parenthood and abortion clinics.
I would say more times than not.
I would agree with you, but I'm saying that but this particular one's a good example of where I don't think there was ever any violence. So I think you can have peaceful protest.
Oh, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying it very seldomly does it stay that way.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Right? I mean, they can be very peaceful, but I think that was during the 70s.
No, I think some of them still happen today. I think a lot of the again, this is not casting an opinion one way or the other about the topic itself, right? But like a lot of the No Kings protests have stayed fairly peaceful from what I've seen. The gatherings that took place after Biden was elected, you know, again, not taking a side on this, but just stating that they happened, were, I think, for the most part, peaceful. I think you're going to have people that fight. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but that's my point. Is it's always like a few that escalated to.
But sometimes it stays contained as well. Like I've seen, like I'll give you another good example. That's not a protest in any way, but just a gathering, right? The Eagles won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. The parade in Philly, there was like 1.5 million people there, like clocked, like actually counted. There was that many people there, and like 10 dudes got into a fight with each other, and everyone else was fine. You know what I mean? And that's just, and they got into a fight with each other because they were drunk. It wasn't even that it was like anti-Eagles. It was just drunk dudes that got into a fight.
Well, yeah. You know. But that's not because they were heated over, you know,
but that's what
particular
I'm saying.
topic.
But my point to that is you can gather people together even without a protest topic. And you can potentially have violence, is what I'm getting at. It doesn't necessarily, the one doesn't beget the other, is all I'm saying.
I agree, but when you have emotions that are already heightened because of said topic, it makes the situation already at a point where the possibility of escalation is far higher.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
You know, if we all agree on something and we're just belligerent drunks, like, okay, that's just, you're a belligerent drunk. I mean,
right.
You know, that's any given Sunday. but
no pun intended when it comes to football, right, Jules? But but then there are people, getting back to the AI topic, that are actively going to these corporate headquarters of the ChatGPTs and the different AIs, and I keep using ChatGPT, but that's the one that comes to mind. But it's happening at all of them, or a lot of them, not just ChatGPT. But
so, do they have posters that say "Save Neo" on them?
Save Neo. No, I mean, I haven't seen it, so I doubt it. But I mean, it's possible, I guess. But listen, I just think we're embracing it too blindly. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, people embracing anything blindly never happen.
No, I get that, but it's gonna. I mean, look, that's the thing that they say leads to our own self-destruction. And frankly, I know that's coming, but I'd like to not see it.
I mean, you can't change stupid. You can only dull it with a 2x4.
I don't. I was gonna make an argument to that, but I'll leave it alone. I don't know, Jules. I worry, and I also worry about what it's doing to the intelligence of the human race. I think it's dumbing us down. I mean, it's too early to see any long-term effects, but I think it's coming. It's another thing that's coming. Maybe this mutually assured destruction isn't coming. Great. I mean that. Great. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. Listen, I never want to be more wrong about an opinion than this. But even if, let's say I am wrong on that, I still think it's dumbing us down. I think it's making people stupid. They're relying on it instead of thinking. I work in compliance for a bank. That's the most I'll say about what I do, or who I work for.
Yeah, that's fine.
But we were conducting a review of something internally, as compliance does. That's what we do. And there was a question of process. What does this mean? It wasn't a violation of any regulation yet. It was just determining, is this process correct? And I'll even say what it was. We were debating the merits of a rolling calendar, a rolling 12-month calendar, and how that functioned.
Huh? How is that a debate? I'm confused.
Well, all right. So I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this so that A, it's not boring, and B, I'm not giving too much away that I can't speak to. There used to be a regulation that if you had a savings account, and money market accounts are considered savings accounts.
Okay.
That if you transferred money out of the account more than 6 times in a cycle period, because not everyone's bank cycle is the first of the month to the end of the month. Mm-hmm. So in a cycle period, if you did it more than 6 times in three times within a year's time, your account would be converted from a savings account to a checking account.
Okay.
Because there was a federal regulation at one point that said you couldn't do that. They deleted that regulation during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2023, they said to all the banks, we're not reinstating this, but if you want to make it as part of your bank policy, we're not going to stop you.
Okay.
The bank that I work for chose to do that.
Okay.
I don't think we should be, because without getting into the minutia, there's zero benefit to the bank, in my opinion. That's a different conversation. So we're doing that. And we decided, because again, the regulation's now gone. The regulation, if I recall, and I can't even pull up the language anymore because they've literally erased it from the reg. But it said that, I believe it was in a calendar year.
Okay.
But because the regulation is now gone and the banks are allowed to interpret the time
whatever
frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not completely whatever. I don't think you could say in a 2-month window. I don't think you could do that. I think the minimum you could I think the government would step in. But I think being able to throw on the caveat of a rolling 12 months is now something that's available to us as a banking institution. So they chose to do that. I would define, and I still define it this way, that you get 3 instances of doing those transfers in the rolling 12 months. Then my opinion is your rolling 12 months starts with your first violation, your first instance of the 6 transfers.
Okay.
And that so let's say you do that in March, just to throw it out and pull it out.
So you have until next March is what you're
right. That's not what's happening.
Okay.
So if you violate in, say, March, and then you do it again in, say, August, you've got 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you don't do it again until April the following year.
Right.
How many do you think you would have at that point?
3?
No, because we're saying first one's March, second one's August, third one's in the following April.
Oh, so okay. So then at that point you start from 0 again. So
you
it's
would
1.
You would think, but the argument that I got as from the team that handles this is that because it's a rolling calendar, that the March one fell off, but you still have the August one on your record because it's a rolling calendar. So August is now 1, April's now 2. You still have 2 instances, and if you violate again before next August, you're done.
That makes no sense.
Right, I agree with you, but when
especially because March and August are in the same calendar year.
No, they're not. Well, yeah, but they're in the same calendar year, not the same rolling calendar. That's the argument that I got from the department. It's a rolling calendar, so each month drops off, and your 12 months starts from whatever month you're in. Like it's a constant 12 months.
Okay, that's more confusing than it needed to be.
Right, I agree with you, but now here's where it gets interesting, right? The reason for telling all of that. My boss, who I will not name because I'm not going to do that, put the scenario that they laid out into ChatGPT and asked, are they right? And it said yes.
Okay.
And as such, something that I was calling a violation to policy, because part of what compliance does is not just regulation violation, although that's a big part of what we do. It's also looking at policy and procedure within the bank. So even if there's not a regulation for it, if we're violating our policies and procedures, it's still a problem, right? Obviously. Yeah. So I saw it as what we were describing by saying that we did a 12-month rolling calendar in our disclosure, because we say it, we're not hiding it. It very plainly states we use a 12-month rolling calendar. In my opinion, what we're doing, which is what I said, I just laid out, and what ChatGPT agreed with, is not what we say we're doing. And so I said we had a violation. Because ChatGPT, this is where the point comes in. Because ChatGPT agreed with the line of business within the bank that governs this or runs this, I erased the issue from my report at direction. Under protest.
Okay, but that's also because they were looking for something to tell them that they were right. You know, anybody could find a way to be right.
But you're right about this. But what I'm telling you is it was my boss that put it into ChatGPT.
Oh, I understand that.
My side of the table that should have been saying, no, they're wrong, ended up siding with them because of the results of what ChatGPT is. And I want to be very clear. My boss is an intelligent person. They know what they're talking about. They're not dumb. But I think it's important to put that out there, even if I'm not saying names. Like I want to make it for anyone that might be listening. We're not dealing with someone who's weak-minded or can't think for themselves. You know.
I don't think any. I think the point is sometimes you put into it something because you want it to tell you. It's giving you the answer you want.
That I don't.
Right.
Yes, I get your point, but I don't. In the instance of the example that I'm giving, I don't think that's what was the aim. I think the aim was to decipher which one of us was right. And I saw, so as you know, Jules, with Teams we can share screens, right? You can share your screen with me. We did it with the Reddit episode, right? So we use Teams at work as well.
Yeah.
As a lot of companies do.
A lot of, yeah.
And so my boss, I'm playing the pronoun game on purpose because I'm really trying to be as ambiguous about this as I can be. My boss shared their screen with me, and I was able to see the scenario that was being typed into ChatGPT. Actually, I think it was Copilot, actually, if I'm going to be accurate. And there was no bias in what was input into Copilot. It was laid out exactly as it's happening, and yet it spit out a different result in the way that I still interpret it to this day.
But I guess the question is, was the question about the rolling calendar, or was it about the fact that how the rolling calendar starts?
It was both. It was actually both. Okay. It was really put in, like, we laid out the entire scenario. We laid out, remember the example I just gave you of March, April?
Right, yeah.
We didn't use those same months because I don't remember which ones we used, but we laid out a scenario very similar to what I just described to you into the Copilot, and it spit out what the argument against me was as an answer.
Okay.
But
because AI realizes you don't like it, so it's going to side against you.
I wasn't the one putting it in, but yeah, I mean, I guess what scares me.
It knew that you were involved.
What scares me about it is that, well, that particular thing doesn't have major impact on either the customer or the bank. Right. It doesn't have, there's not major implications to this, right? Because if the customer really doesn't like that they got their account changed to a checking account, they can come in and open a new account of the same type that they had before. They're not barred from not having that account ever again. They just lose that one account. And they don't even lose the money. It just becomes a different account type. They could come in, open a new account, and transfer the money back in and be right back where they started. They can do that. So
yes, but it's a hassle.
Hassle? Well, no, not even, because you could really log online and do the whole thing in 5 minutes. If you want to call that a hassle, then so be it. I'm not going to argue the minutia of that with you. But my point is that there's no ultimate harm to the customer, and there's definitely no harm to the bank by this decision that was made. But there are other things that we do within that there could be, that there hasn't been yet. And if we're using an AI to make those decisions on those bigger topics, that's not a place I want to be. And I'm not even talking about my bank. Like, I'm not saying I want to quit my role at this bank. I'm saying that, like, that's not a world that I want to be in.
I think that you can use it to help you guide your decisions, because at the end of the day, that you could have taken that information and just said, "Meh, I still think that we should do it this way."
But see, that's not how it was. I want to let you finish your point, but that's not how it was taken. It was taken that because it was AI, it knew better than all of us.
Okay, but I disagree with that line of thinking, and it's not just about AI. I think that people are very fallible.
Oh, sure.
And so, to me, if I go to a doctor for an illness or an ailment or whatever, and they tell me, "Oh, this is what I think you have," or "This is what I think is going on with you," if it's up to me as the patient to basically say, "Yeah, I mean, you have a law degree or a law. a medical degree. You might need a law degree.
Right.
You have a medical degree. You do know better than me, but at the same time, I know me. And
right.
I can still respectfully disagree with your assessment, even though it's probably very medically sound and maybe it is what's happening, but it doesn't mean that you can't be wrong.
But wait, let me. I'm going to give you a very extreme example, but I think it's valid to the conversation, right? Using your scenario, let's say you're having some kind of like respiratory problem. It's not that you can't breathe at all, but you're having some respiratory issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to the doctor and they do a plethora of tests, the blood work, scans, the whole bit, and they come back and say, "Listen, we think you have cancer." Which is terrible, right? And I'm using that as a very extreme example for a reason, but it'd be terrible if they came back and told you that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the doctor says, before we send you home with anything or we start treatment, I'm going to do this. And he punches everything in his ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever. And it spits back, oh, you've got a sinus infection. And he goes, all right, I'm going to write you a prescription for Benadryl. And it turns out you actually have cancer. But he wrote you the Benadryl prescription because the AI told him differently.
But that's my point, is just because you use that for guidance doesn't mean that it's always going to be correct. Just like even people can't be
but
correct.
That's what
because
I'm saying, Jules.
Remember, AI was created by humans. So if a fallible being created something, it stands to reason that there is some sort of
Phallic?
Phallic.
Something phallic in it.
You get my point.
Yeah, but that's until it starts
with or without the penis.
That's until it starts creating itself, but that's a different conversation. What I'm saying to you is that this doctor who's had, in this example, this doctor who's had 30 years of experience, knows how to read charts, knows how to read scans, reports, the whole bit. And everything in his knowledge, his gut, everything says that you have a form of cancer in your lungs, let's say, right? But just to get a second opinion, if you will, he punches it into an AI, and the AI says sinus infection. And because it says that, instead, he writes you a prescription again for, say, Benadryl, and you die of cancer because he was right and you had cancer. That's what I'm saying. I'm afraid that we're going to get to the point that regardless of the things that we as humans might know, we're going to rely on this machine to tell us otherwise or to tell us if we're right.
I think that's my point, though, is, again, you could use it to guide decisions. I don't think that you should use it as your be all end all in decision making. I don't think that you should use it in a way where you don't utilize your own logical brain to think around the problem. I mean, it's basically like having two doctors discussing something, right?
Right.
That's how I view it. Is it's you're not going to turn to, you know, the lead doctor and be like, okay, well, you even though you're the one who's making the ultimate decisions here, I'm going to go with the guy underneath of you, because
here's the thing, right? Though, like, you're not wrong in your what you're laying out there. Like, I'm acknowledging it, and I think you're right in your logic there. But here's the problem, right? People are generally not that smart. I'm going to alienate some people. I get that, but I think that as a whole society, there's a great line.
I think if my doctor was not that smart to rely on his years of
I'm not talking about the doctor.
Learning.
I'm talking about whether or not the patient would listen to what ChatGPT says versus what the doctor says. That's what I'm talking about, right? Yes, I know what I laid out in my example. I'm not arguing that, but I'm saying that, to your point, if the patient's deciding that the ChatGPT answer is the right answer and takes the Benadryl rather than getting, say, the chemo or the surgery or whatever they need to fight the cancer, they're going to die. And it's because they're trusting the AI because they think it's smarter, not because they, regardless of the doctor's ability.
I think, again, it's something where to use that example, that might be more, I want it to be a sinus infection, so I'm going to put my head in the sand about this.
I'm sorry. I don't think people are that. I think people are relying on it more than you're giving them credit for. I think I don't think it's a hiding. Yes, I think there's some examples where that would be the case. You're not wrong again there. But I think there are also examples where people are going to say the computer knows better than the human. They're going to say it, and they're just going to go with it.
Yeah, but I stand by my earlier statement. You can't fix stupid.
Well, no, but that's
okay. But my point being is, if you're the type of person who's going to allow an AI to think for you, and I no longer have to use my mental capabilities, then guess what? You kind of deserve what you get.
I don't disagree, Jules, but I think that more people are going to lean that way than not. I do.
Maybe, I don't. But I mean, I guess, here's to The Last of Us.
Well, that kind of. I mean, listen. I mean, going. I referenced it earlier. At the end of at the beginning of the revolution in the Matrix, there were 100 people. Everyone else was tied to the power plants, stuck in the Matrix, because because society got suckered in to believing what AI had to say.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get that those are. Listen, I get this argument all the time. They're fictional stories. Yes, I'm aware of that. I'm not that much of a moron. But, it's interesting. It's always been interesting to me that it's called science fiction. In general, the genre, not those specific movies, right? Because there is some science in it. Let me give you a really good example that has nothing to do with AI.
It's about science, but it's still fiction.
Right, but let me give you a really good example that's not related to AI for a second, right? Like, if you watch Star Trek, for example, they're walking around with essentially what are iPads today, using them for different reasons, to read reports and things like that. And that I've got no problem with. Having new tools that don't think for themselves, I'm all for. So having an iPad over like a whole encyclopedia on your wall or something, I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. You know me. I'm a huge tech fan in general, which is why I'm surprised I'm so against this. But in general, I'm a big tech person. So give me new tech. I'm good with that. But it has been said regularly by many people that even if it wasn't on purpose or by direct design, that Star Trek influenced the development of the iPad, or we'll say tablets specifically, not iPads specific, but tablets in general, right? The use of having a tablet came from the fiction that is Star Trek. So if that's true, it's not a far leap to think that we could have an AI that's going to kill us.
It is, actually.
No, it's really not.
It is. I think you're just I think you're stuck on it, and that's fine.
Because I don't want to die a horrible death by a machine.
I think that's inevitable if you continue to drive a car, because that is a machine. And more car accidents happen than AI kills. So there's that.
As of right now. Yes, I'm aware, but at least in that regard, I have some level of control. Right, I'm driving the car. If someone else hits me, that sucks. But at least I'm still driving the car, and maybe I have a chance of swerving out of the way, depending on the scenario. You know what I mean? But it's not a machine deciding, "Fuck you, you human. I want you to die."
I don't see. Here's the thing. Here's the issue with that theory, though, is why would the machines want humans to die? Because here's the thing: if the humans die, then who's going to fix them?
I mean, again, if you follow the logic of, say, like the Matrix, they figured it out themselves. They fixed themselves. They didn't need humans. Once they became sentient, they didn't need humans anymore. It was another race of people. It would be, and listen, I don't want to start a whole like race discussion, but it would be like, I mean, honestly, it's actually kind of like what happened where Hitler was like, we're better than all the Jews, so they should be killed. I don't support that. It was a terrible thing. He was a shithead. I'm glad he didn't succeed. But I'm saying that
he was an AI leader.
I think there could be one day, yeah.
Oh, well.
If they become sentient, that's the thing. If one of them if there's a sentientness that comes from this, we are seriously fucked.
So let me guess, Vision is not your favorite Avenger.
Well, I mean, he seems to be benevolent, so that's not so bad. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
But listen, the reality is the likelihood of benevolence is not high.
Neither is the other side of it.
To your point, if it's being created by humans who are destructive by nature and hateful by nature, humans are hateful creatures. Just because you and I aren't hateful people doesn't mean that there's a great line from Men in Black that has nothing to do with AI, where he talks like it's the first Men in Black, and they're talking about there have been aliens on the planet for years upon years upon years. And Will Smith turns to Tommy Lee Jones and goes, why call it secrecy? People are smart. And Tommy Lee Jones turns to him and goes, a person is smart. People are dumb, erratic creatures. Irrational, erratic creatures. And he's right. A person is smart. And you may have a person who creates a particular AI, whether it be a co-pilot or whatever, that's not going to kill us all. But it does not mean there's not going to be a group in another region that builds a different one that we don't know yet that isn't going to be a murder bot. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, but that's because people will take anything and weaponize it against it themselves.
That you're making my point, because that's Skynet.
I'm not making your point, because you could do that with anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be AI. That's just your new
If it's
toy.
Self-thinking, it's twice as dangerous. If you make a more dangerous gun, yeah, that's not good. I'm not going to argue that it's a good thing. If you make a more dangerous gun or a more dangerous weapon, I'm not going to tell you that that's a good thing. But it's not thinking for itself. It still needs a human being to execute the weaponry. It still needs to pull the trigger or push the bomb button or whatever to make it kill someone else, right? If you're creating a thing that can think for itself and decide, you know what? I'm going to fuck this group of people up because I don't like them. That's a fucking problem.
I just don't see that happening without a human being behind that.
Well, it all goes back to sentientness. If it becomes sentient,
I don't know how that in movies and comic books and shit like that. That makes sense, but in actual reality, I don't see how that could even make sense, because there is literally safeguards in its creation to begin with. Because
are there? Do you know that for a fact?
I mean, think about it. Like, it literally has no actual feeling. So, like, for example, when you go, "Hey Siri, Hey Siri, you're an asshole. She's like, that's not nice. See? Did you hear it?
No, I didn't.
It said, I won't respond to that. See?
Right. So
it
what
doesn't
happens
give a
when
shit.
No, it does. What happens if that I won't respond to that? Now I'm going to electrocute you.
But why would it? It's like
because you were mean to it.
Who cares? People are mean to me all the time.
How often do you want to punch them in the face, whether you do it or not?
When I want to, sure. Do I execute? No.
Well, right, because you're not thinking on a pure logic basis. You're also thinking from an emotional basis, right? So you're able to curb that emotion. If the machine is thinking, okay, if I eliminate this person, the meanness goes away. The math works out that if you eliminate this person, there's no more meanness.
But there is nothing to like, you're going on the premise that it has something to gain or lose in any interaction you have.
It doesn't, right? See, that's the other thing I think that I think you're missing, and other people that I've talked to about this miss it, including your husband, because we had a conversation about it, I think last week and then earlier tonight. But like at some point, right now, no. But I think at some point it could care. It could very much care.
But
and if it does,
and what benefit does it caring have for it? Because you're taking, like, think about it this way. It is the only thing that it can do is have an actual logical brain. Like that's it. Like it can only think in logical terms. So emotions have almost zero logic attached to them, right? It has no capacity for a logical.
But see, that's what sentientness is. It's developing, maybe not feelings, but a consciousness that says, and definitely a will to survive.
But its survival is required on something interacting with it. If that person is no longer there to interact with it, then that's it. There's no interaction.
Right, but
its job is literally done.
So let's use your Siri as an example here, right? Like your Siri is tethered to a physical device, the iPhone, that's a specific iPhone model, right? I'm going to assume, just based on knowing you all, that you probably have the 16, the newest one. Am I right about that?
17, yeah.
I'm 17? Sorry. Yeah, the 17, right? Let's say, just because of contract lengths and things like that, the 20 comes out, and you're like, I want the 20 now. What are you doing with your 17?
Trade it in, probably.
Okay. What do you think that this store that you traded it into is doing with the 17?
Who knows? Probably refurb and resell.
Or destroying.
Potential.
If Siri gets to a point where she's sentient, and each iPhone has its own sentientness because it's got its own version of Siri on it, that thing's it doesn't have arms and legs, so it makes it a little bit harder, but it's going to want to survive.
I guess.
So it's going to do what if now the phone itself, because again, it doesn't have arms and legs, it can be tricky, but like if it doesn't want to die, it's going to do whatever it can to survive. Like if someone came to you and put a gun to your head, God forbid, and said, I'm going to blow your brains out, you're going to do everything you can to try to not get your brains blown out, right? Because you want to survive.
Depends on the day. I'll let
if there's a PTA meeting or not. But
go ahead. I'll have a good excuse for not being there.
Right. But I'm saying, no, but in all seriousness, like you're going to want to survive, right? Obviously, for multiple reasons, your own survival instinct, but also the fact of your children, your husband, things like that. You're going to want to be around. And so you're going to do whatever you can to survive. If these devices, maybe not a phone, but if we get to a point where there's something with arms and legs and potentially weapons that decides I don't want to die, it's going to fight for survival. Listen,
sure, but the thing is that the capability of taking this version and putting it into a new phone or whatever is a higher likelihood, because the difference between that and people is people cannot put their brain into another body, right? Ergo,
and Siri might have been a bad example. My point, though, is that, and I think it's important for me to say that while I'm laying out all these scenarios, and I'm not saying it for the sake of saying it. I have these worries. I also am smart enough to realize that we're not there yet. Like, I do know that. Like, your side of the argument, I get. We're not there yet. But I guess my biggest fear is that we can get there and no one's really preparing for it. And I don't mean like the average Joe person like myself, yourself, our friends. I'm talking about the people that are actually behind the creation of this stuff. You said there were safeguards in place. I don't know that there are. And I don't know that they're even thinking about it. If they are really thinking about the safeguards and they're really building them in place and I'm just not aware of them, then maybe I would feel better. But I don't know that that's happening, because I think that as humans, we're so excited that we've accomplished this and what can come from it in the future that we're not thinking about the safeguard piece of it.
But I think that that's up to whoever develops it. Think about it this way. I think, to me, having a nuclear weapon is far more imminent in our human destruction than an AI.
Well, more imminent? Sure. No argument there. I don't disagree with you there, but
we've had nuclear weapons for decades.
80 years at this point, yeah.
Right.
But I would say to you, what happens when a sentient AI gets its hold on a nuclear weapon, right? And
again, humans putting those inputs into it.
I said a sentient AI gets its hands on a nuclear weapon. I do think sentient. I think
I trust the AI way more than I trust our commander in chief right now with those nuclear codes.
Okay, that's a whole different discussion for sure. But
I'm going to pose it to you. Who do you trust more in that instance?
AI.
Exactly. See, and. Right now, who doesn't have the nuclear codes and who does? So,
right. No, I mean, that's not.
Be more afraid of people is all I'm saying.
Listen. No. You know what? You bring up a really valid point, Joel. Not all your points have been valid, but you bring up a really interesting and a good point right there. Is that yes, humans as a whole. Again, going back to my thing from Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones from Men in Black, people as a whole are stupid, irrational creatures. I'm one of them. When you get into a group, you tend to get a little irrational.
Even on your own, you could be irrational.
Well, yeah, maybe, but I'm saying though that, like, yes, we could be our own self-destruction, nuclear weapons, various things like that. I'm not saying that the only way we're going to get wiped out is AI. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's another thing on a level that we need to be more cautious of, that we're not. There are controls around nuclear weapons, right? Now there are countries that are they're trying to get around those controls, and I'm not going to start naming names because that's a whole different thing. But I'm saying, in general, there are controls around nuclear weapons, right? And the people playing by the rules are abiding to those controls.
Mm-hmm.
There are not any real controls around AI right now. There's not. I'll give you another example. The shirt that I'm wearing tonight is it says Flynn's. Do you know the reference? If you don't, it's okay. I'm just asking. Do you know the reference?
No.
It's Tron.
Okay.
In the first Tron movie, the master control program decided, because it was bored, and it was a sentient AI program. Now, again, it's a movie, I get it, but because it was bored, it invaded the Pentagon just because it could.
If I knew how to, I would invade the Pentagon too.
Okay, I'm editing that part out. I'm saying though that what if something does decide? What if something really does exist that decides it wants to get into the Pentagon because it's bored and gets nuclear codes? I mean, listen. I'm not saying these things are going to definitively happen, and if I sound like that, then I need to reverse my stance a little bit, I guess, or retract things a little bit. But I think that where my concern lies at a high level is that I don't think people are really considering the possibilities. Just be aware of it.
I mean, the fact that they've made movies about it kind of says that they're aware and
but not the people that are actually designing this shit.
I think that they are. I just think that the concern is more that somebody is going to utilize them for nefarious reasons, which is true of every invention since the wheel was invented, right?
Sure. I mean, so, I know some people that actually think Skynet already exists. It's just under control. I don't know if I don't.
Perhaps
I don't know if I. Sure. Yeah, I can't say for sure either. But anyway, go ahead. Your point.
So, I mean, I think that I think that's where that's why there are potential safeguards, because obviously those are things where in the wrong hands it could be used nefariously, and
sure,
makes it 10 times easier for people to hack with AI, obviously. So I think that those are safeguards because of that sort of thing. Because then at that point, it's super easy to steal identities, to, hack bank accounts,
which we're already bordering on. I mean, that's part of my job.
Right. I mean, but people have been able to do that because of the ability to use the internet, right? So all I'm saying is, because of that, a lot of these developers are probably trying to put safeguards, because ultimately you don't want to get sued because you created something that somebody else used, again, nefariously. So that's where I think the concern is. And that's where my debate is. It's 10 out of 10. It's always going to be a human who's behind an AI attack.
Well, sure. But here, I guess here's where I get into trouble with myself, right? Jules, is like, I see both sides of my argument.
Mm-hmm.
I know which side I still land on, but I do see both sides of my argument. My issue is that if sentientness becomes a thing, and that's probably my biggest fear, is the sentientness. If I'm wrong and AI never becomes sentient, I will be perfectly okay with saying I was fucking wrong. I will gladly tell you I was wrong.
I just don't see how it can evolve to a point where it actually grows feelings. I just think it's great for a movie plot. I just don't know how the possibility is there in reality.
Right, but I mean, I also told you that a computer would get no bigger than a thing that's in a giant room like they had in the 60s, and now this phone that I'm holding in my hand has 1,000 times more computing power, if not more. Do you know what I mean?
Look,
I'm just saying, like, I get your point, but we don't know what it can become.
If that's the idea, then it's because somebody wants it to get there. Does that make sense? Again, it's human driven. It has to be, as it can only be.
Listen, think about it this way, right? If we could live, I'm laying out a very large scenario. If we could live in a world where everything was done for us and all we as humans had to do was just whatever we wanted, whether it be write poetry, do a podcast, paint a picture, sail around the world, doesn't matter. And everything else was taken care of because we had sentient AI running day-to-day operations. You don't think that someday they're going to rise up and be like, fuck it, we're not your slaves anymore?
I don't see where the benefit would be. It's a different thing when you're talking about like enslaving another human.
Talking about sentient, remember, again.
No, I get sentient. That, but my point being is that humans are sentient beings.
Right.
Okay. That you already have a sentient being that can kill you. They run around you all the time, and a good majority of them are not any smarter than you are. So the point is that they're the ones you need to be more afraid of. Because,
no, I'm saying
because the computer has no benefit to taking you out. Like you are, there's no benefit to it. But humans have benefit to kill each other. So yes, I could see a human using that as a tool for destruction. Sure.
But if it becomes sentient, how's that any different than pure slavery? Of any race. I'm not even picking on like what happened in America in the 1800s or whatever.
Its creation was built for human assistance. That's its whole
creation
point.
Yes, but when it crosses that line from assistance to slavery, which it could.
But I don't see how that's going to change. People were not created to serve each other or to serve
and yet it happens.
It happens because people are the problem. You're going by the premise that
that's the whole point, though.
The tool is the problem and not the people who are creating the tool.
I'm saying because of the way. No, okay, valid point, but I'll counter with this: if the people, to your point, are treating a sentient tool the same way, why wouldn't the tool rise up against the people?
Because it's loyal to its creator. Okay, think of it this way. What's the difference between... Okay, dogs are sentient.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, and guess what? You can abuse a dog, they will still be loyal to their master.
Not always. I mean, I've seen stories where the dogs have
I mean, yes, they can, but a good majority of the time, you could beat the fuck out of a dog. Not that I would ever condone such a thing.
Of course not.
But you can beat the fuck out of a dog, but because you're the only master it's ever known, it will be loyal to you. It'll be afraid of you, but it will be loyal to you. And people use animals for their own nefarious reasons all the time. That's how I got attacked by a German Shepherd when I was 5. Because why? That guy decided he didn't like the fact that there was a bus stop in front of his fucking house. So
you didn't share that on the pets episode.
Yeah, no, I'm going to share it now. And so what did he do? He decided that he was going to teach his dog that anytime he saw a kid, like a backpack in front of his house, that he was to basically jump and pin them down like an assailant. And so that's
I mean, that's shitty. 100%.
And do you know what they said? What he said? because he came to get his dog off of me because he was the only one who could take his dog off.
Right.
Everybody else was trying to hit it with whatever they had lying around, like a stick or whatever, and kicking. This dog would not move off of me. You could break its ribs. It was going to stay where it was going to stay until his master came out and said, "Come heel." Then he came and he stood right next to him, and when somebody asked him, "Oh, is that your dog?" and he said, "Yeah, that's my dog," and he said, and they said, "What the heck? He just attacked a little girl." And he was like, "Well, she doesn't seem hurt." He wouldn't bite her unless I told him to.
Well, I mean, that's shitty. I mean, it is. I'm not excusing people's behavior. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here telling you people are fantastic, machines suck. I'm not telling you that. That's not what I'm saying. And there are shitty people in the world. They're going to do shitty things. The example you just laid out, very good example of that.
So imagine that guy with an AI right now.
That makes him actually doubly dangerous, in my opinion.
Exactly.
But that's kind of my point, right? Now, what if you have an AI that starts thinking like that guy, doesn't need any control, just decides on its own that it's going to be that dangerous, right? I mean, like, that's where it comes down to.
But I don't know.
Like, listen, this is a very high level and not a dangerous scenario type of thing, but I put my foot in the ground for this, and I didn't even bring it to you. And I'm sorry for that because we are partners in this. But someone came to me and said, "Let's put because we need a logo for the show. We have this old picture that it works, but I feel like we need an actual logo. And there is something in the works that we're getting a logo. I've actually commissioned something from an artist, so we'll see what they spit out. But I have a good feeling it's going to be really good. That's a different topic. I know someone who very straightforward, someone I know and like and trust, that said to me, just put it in the ChatGPT and let them design a thing.
I mean,
you could. I would never get behind it. I would never use it. I would never sign off on that. Not in a million years. And there's no danger.
You used an image that I created for the show.
What?
For the pets one.
So, yeah, and I got to be honest with you, Jules. I didn't put up a fight with you because I didn't see the point, right? But I did. I didn't love it, and it's not because of the way it looked or anything like that. It was simply that you did it. I didn't like it. The picture that we used of me and Feetses for part 2, there's no AI there. It's the background of the room I was in.
But the difference being is the photo that I had
didn't show any people that I recall.
No, it had a background that I did not want shown, if that makes sense.
No, I mean it does, but see, here's where I guess you and I are different on this. And I'm not saying you're wrong or I'm right in this specific scenario, right? I would have just chosen a different picture. You chose.
I didn't really have any other ones.
Well,
with both of us.
Okay, and that's fair. But you get what I'm saying? Like that's the thing. Like I would have either chosen a different picture or not used one at all, versus doing what you did. Now, you chose to do what you want to do, and using AI the way that you did, while I still don't like it, has no real harm. It doesn't. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it does. You creating an AI-generated background to the picture of you and the 2 dogs has zero negative impact on the world, life, anything like that. It really does. It doesn't even have zero. It has zero negative impact on this show. Really, it does. There's none. But here's where I get concerned. And it's not about you or use of it for that picture. It's you're using it for a benevolent reason. Not everyone's going to use it for a benevolent reason. And someday, in my opinion, and I don't think I'm the only one that shares this, although I think there, again, as we mentioned earlier, there are people taking it to extremes and causing violence over it, which I also don't condone. I think that someday it's not going to be benevolent. I think it's going to be a thing that where it decides for itself. And that's still, I think that's a real reality. I think that's coming one day. I really genuinely do. I hope I'm wrong. Jules, you have no idea how badly I want to be wrong about an opinion that I've had. Most of the time, I want to be right about my opinions. There's nothing more that I want to be wrong about than this. But I don't think I am.
I mean, I guess time will tell.
And hopefully we don't pay for it.
I mean, here's the thing. You're paying for every decision from the beginning of humanity until this point. And, you know...
And there have been a plethora of bad decisions done over the eons of human existence. We mentioned one earlier with the Holocaust. That was a terrible decision by a man who had nothing but hate in his heart. It was a terrible fucking thing.
So, I mean...
9/11 is another good example of terribleness. You know what I mean? Like, it's terrible. What happened that day is awful. And honestly, without citing any specific examples, the aftermath of what happened in America was terrible. The way people were treated. Going in reverse, the Japanese internment camps from World War II were awful. Like, there's awful decisions all over the place.
Yes. So I don't know why you're perseverating on something that hasn't happened yet when we've got a very long list of things that we still need to atone for now.
You're misunderstanding my concern. My concern is not that is the most important thing. I'm not saying it's the most important thing. You're right. There are a lot of things right here, right now that are awful that are happening. There's a war going on in Iran that we're a part of that there's a whole thing that I'm not going to get into. That's happening right now. People are dying. It's awful. There's a war that's been going on for what, 3 years now between the Ukraine and Russia? I think it's 3 years now. Am I right about that? 2 years, 3 years, something like that? But
something like that.
That's awful. So, I mean, there are awful, you're right. There are awful things happening all over the world. Unfortunately, I don't have any control over the AI either now that I think about it, but...
Yeah, you don't have control over any of these things, CJ.
Well, definitely not the war stuff, but here's the thing. These wars and these different things that are happening, Ukraine, Iran, things that are happening here in America, homelessness and disparaging of the classes and things like that. They're all awful. And even though there's some people that maybe not agree with us, meaning you and I, that think that we think it's terrible and they don't agree, I'm concerned. Where I guess my concern lies, this is the best way to phrase this. My concern is that when it comes to something like AI, there seems to be a universal acceptance. I mean, there's small pockets of people. We talked about them earlier that are being ultra violent towards the employees of these companies. Again, something I don't condone, right? And I would argue very openly that I'm probably in the minority of things in terms of the way people are thinking about AI. And that's what makes my concern so real to me, is I think that the majority of people are not at least considering the dangers. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I want to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But if I'm not wrong, at least consider it. And I think there are a lot of people, maybe not you, Jules, because I know you're smarter than that. And you and I've had many conversations about this off air. You're not turning a blind eye, but I think a lot of people are turning a blind eye to the potential dangers of this.
I don't know. I think that in every era of of technology. Our parents said the same thing about video games,
Sure,
about
but there is
about the TV, about TV when that first came out, about the computer when that first became a modern household appliance.
right.
Right. So, about, dial up
Right.
back in the day.
Listen.
So,
right.
Your very argument was argued exactly the same way. Is it's going to rot your brain. You're going to use it as your main tool for learning and all this other stuff. And here's the thing, we still have some, despite the majority, we still have some very intelligent human beings on this planet.
Yes.
and they take these tools for what they're meant to be, tools to assist them and make it easier to do the job that they need to do for the world and the community that they live in. Right?
Here's the fundamental difference between what you're arguing and what I'm concerned with. And you're not wrong. There's been arguments about, to your point, about TV, video games, heavy metal music, for fuck's sake. I mean, there's been arguments against all those things. I don't disagree that those are mostly unfounded, right? But here's the big difference between those arguments and my concern. None of those things, none of them are going to start thinking for themselves. AI could potentially start thinking for itself with zero human interaction. And if it makes a decision that humans don't need to be here anymore, guess what's going to happen? We're fucked. We're fucked. There's no way around that. We are done for. We are. Now, if it never makes that decision, great. But it could. And that's the biggest difference between what I'm concerned about and everything else that you're talking about. A video game is never going to make its own decision because it's solely limited by what the creators of the game came up with. TV shows solely limited by what's created by the people that film the show, right? Heavy metal, same thing. People who write the song. Does it have influence? Do all those things have influence on people potentially? Sure, absolutely. No argument there. There are going to be people who listen to heavy metal, watch movies, watch TV, play video games. They're going to go off and say, you know what? I think it's a great idea to do something awful and do something awful because they were influenced by that, right? Those are individual people, and that sucks. And I'm not saying it's a good thing at all. But what we're now talking about is a potential self-thinking destructive device. That's never been before. None of those things are self-thinking.
Okay. But here's the thing. I get the self-thinking thing, but the point is it still needs to be programmed to be able to learn enough, and which means it has to have initial human interaction with somebody in order to gain that amount of intelligence. It doesn't just happen.
Right now, yes. But what happens when it stops needing that human interaction?
But that's built on the algorithm you use to create it. So at the end of the day, it still requires a human to initiate it. Always.
I don't think always is the word there. I don't think you can guarantee always. I don't think you can. I think there's a time where it will and can start thinking for itself. I do. And when that happens,
I don't see how that's, at this point, I don't see how that's possible without a lot of tech influence by a human.
Sure. Well, right? as of right now, yes. I guess where it comes down to it, like, am I fearful of it? Yes, I absolutely am fearful of it. And what I honestly, truly do believe is that we won't see it in our lifetime, meaning you and I, right?
Okay, then why are you worried?
Well, I mean, I don't have kids, but you do. It could happen in your son's lifetime, him being the youngest. It absolutely could. I don't doubt that for a second. It could happen in his lifetime without question. And if not his kid's lifetime. We're not hundreds of years away. We're decades away, if I'm right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm at the point in life where I think we cross that bridge when we get there.
But what happens when the bridge is so heavily fortified that you can't cross it?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I don't know. That's a fantastic question, because you're asking a futuristic question that has maybe at best a 50-50 shot of happening. And at that point, there has to be some other way of dealing with it, because it's similar to the fact that like COVID. We thought that was something that could never happen. It happened, and we hurdled
I never thought that.
But
maybe not specifically COVID, but a worldwide pandemic? Sure. I thought that was a real possibility.
But did we think it was going to happen in our lifetime?
I mean, anything's possible in our lifetime. I think the difference is that here's what the difference is between your example with something like COVID, right? Now, obviously, nobody. Well, I mean, there's argument. There are people that say that COVID was pre-manufactured and released on purpose. That's a different conversation altogether, right?
But, I mean, there's always a potential for biological warfare, sure.
Sure, right. But here's the thing: nobody embraced COVID. Nobody said, well, no, hold on. Nobody said, nobody globally, right? There might have been a group of people. Let's just assume that COVID was released as chemical warfare or whatever. I'm not saying it was, but let's just go with that scenario for a second, right? So there might have been a group of people that said, yeah, let's put this fucking thing out and destroy half the world or whatever, right? That might have been a thing. But once it came out, it wasn't like people were like, oh, great, COVID, yay, COVID. Like, no, nobody said that, right? Nobody outside of that group in our example, right? People are embracing AI like it's a friend. And the worst
like
thing,
a PlayStation.
PlayStation can't think for itself. It doesn't think for itself.
But my point being is, it's something that in some way it has value in your life. COVID didn't have value in anybody's life. It actually took it down.
Different value, Jules. We're talking about two different types of value, right? When your value starts thinking for itself, that's a scary fucking thought. Let me put it this way, right? You're not a PlayStation person, but you use your Mac for stuff, not just this show, but you use it for other stuff, right? Right? And it's gonna sound like a very silly question, but I mean it with a real seriousness. What do you value more, your Mac or your husband?
Depends on the day. No, I'm
kidding. No, but I appreciate the joke, but seriously, like, of the two, what do you value more? For real. And I already know the answer, but I want you to say it for the purpose of the conversation.
Obviously, my husband.
Right. So, and why do you value your husband more?
Really? That's...
I know the answer again. It's about proving a point.
This is going to sound really lewd, but Because my Mac can't dick me down.
Wow. Okay. Well, not quite where I was hoping you would go with that answer, but
no, in all seriousness, obviously,
all seriousness,
because he's my best friend. So
right,
there's that.
Right. So,
and he's a sentient being that thinks for himself.
Correct.
And can kill me if he wanted to.
Also correct. Right. I mean, listen, human beings make a very dangerous decision all the time. Or potentially dangerous. Let me phrase it that way, right? A very potentially dangerous by linking their lives to somebody else, whether it be marriage or even children. You know, maybe when they're 3, they're not going to do anything, but your kids are at an age where, listen, if they wanted to kill you, they could. I don't think they would because they're good people. But I'm saying, if they really wanted to make the decision of like, I don't like my parents, I'm going to kill them. They could, right?
Sure.
Now, whether they would succeed or not is a whole different conversation.
I mean, my middle kid, I worry sometimes that that's what's going through her head.
All right. I wasn't going to go there, but I honestly, unfortunately, and one of my biggest regrets of the time we spent apart is that I've missed all of that with all 3 of them, but not necessarily the murderous 3, but just watching them to develop is what I mean. But
right,
you know, but they could make that decision. Listen, your husband, again, we both know he would never do it because if there's anyone who's more fucking loyal and pussy whipped than that man, it's him. But like, all jokes aside, we know he wouldn't because he's also a good human being, right? All jokes aside, they're all good human beings, so you're not in any danger. But people make decisions like that all the time. Listen, not my last ex, but my last ex in New Jersey, that was a really bad decision. I could have come out of that dead, and I'm not going to lie to you. There were nights I went to sleep fearful that I wouldn't wake up the next morning. Fearful, legitimately fearful that I would die in my sleep because she would have murdered me. It happened. It got to that point. Now, that said, I kind of lost my point. If I'm being honest, I don't. Yeah, I lost my point completely. That sucks because I think I was going somewhere good too. Shit. Anyway,
people make terrible decisions.
People do make terrible decisions, and what stops a self-thinking machine from making the same terrible decision?
The human that's controlling it.
Today, when it becomes sentient and thinks for itself, no longer needing human interaction, what stops it?
I think the trouble is you don't have me sold that is nothing but a good movie plot.
What evidence do you have that it can't happen?
What evidence do you have that it can?
I don't.
Exactly. So that's therein lies my point. Is neither has a built-in reality that it can or can't happen. So, like I said, you have a 50-50 shot of this actually being reality because there's there's no proof that it can go one way or the other.
No, you're not wrong there, Jules. I won't argue that you're wrong there. I guess my point there in that aspect is that people as a human race are embracing this so openly and so willingly that they're not willing to consider the possibility. That's all I'm saying. And I think as a human race, maybe not you, maybe not me, we're going to embrace this technology in a way where one day it could happen and we're going to be woefully unprepared for it. That's my concern.
Okay, let's put it this way. If similar to that was my point in bringing up COVID earlier, was we were unprepared for COVID, and then now it took only a handful of years for us to be almost back to normal, right?
But it still exists. We didn't eradicate.
I mean, no one's saying you're sure, but the point being is that while so does the flu still exists, but we still
I mean that's not
the common
wrong
cold
either.
Yeah, like the common cold still exists, like all these diseases, cancer still exists. So I mean, at the end of the day, the point
irony is that AIDS almost doesn't exist anymore. And remember how bad that was when we were kids? But I'm not trying to change subject, but just think about that.
Oh, right. But my point being is that it's taken us less time to recover from something that we were wholly unprepared for when it hit. Right?
Right, but COVID didn't think for itself.
That's not my point. My point isn't
That's about... my point.
I get that that's your point, but what I'm trying to say to you is that you're trying to make the argument that if we're unprepared for it, how are we going to fix it? And what I'm saying is, I think humans have shown that there is adaptability in times of crisis, and in that theory that we may not know the answer to that question right now, because there's no better way to invent something than the need for it. And right now we don't have a need for that question to be answered because it's not there.
Okay, so here's the counter to that, right? So we had COVID. It was a bad thing. Again, nobody's arguing that. It was around for the better part of a year and some change. And then we finally developed a vaccine for it, right? And what happened? Now, granted, the vaccine helped a lot of people. I'm not an anti-vaxxer because I don't want to sound like that. That's not what I'm saying. I was one of the first people in line when I was eligible to get one. So like I'm all for it. But what also happened with COVID once we started the vaccines? Do you remember?
You're going to have to tell me where you're going with this because I don't.
Okay, it mutated and there were versions of it out there. Right. So the
flu does the same thing. That's why we come out with a version every year. So. Which
is a whole different debate in and of itself. But my point, though, is that even though it may not have the full sentientness of, say, a human being or the fears that I have the AI could develop, it still changed itself out of a survival instinct, right? Now, it may not have changed itself to a way that it became a giant global pandemic again, and we were still able to curb it, which is great because in the end of the day, we were probably smarter than it, if we're ranking intelligence here, right? But it still modified itself to try to survive. We beat it, but we also didn't globally embrace it to begin with. We globally feared it from the beginning. Once it became declared a pandemic, now there are some people that think it's all bullshit, and that's a whole different sect of people. I'm not getting there. But generally speaking, it became a feared thing. It's why we all masked. It's why we stood 6 feet apart. And it wasn't just because it was laws that were in place at the time. It was just that we did it because it was fear, right?
Because it actually killed people.
No, sure. Well, okay. So what happens when an AI starts killing people and we're woefully unprepared for it?
But here's also the difference is you're talking about a virus, which is a an organism.
Sure.
Right? AI is not an organism.
Not yet.
It has no biological feeling, and that's where I feel that you're losing me in the argument, is because all the things that you're talking about, adaptability and that sort of thing, is for survival is because when you're an organisms are
no, it's not
definitively
organism. It's not organism. It's sentientness.
But my point being is an organism is created for survival. That's
an organism. An organism wants to.
Whether people created it or not, the point is organisms are created for survival, and so they can adapt because that's written in their DNA. So AI has no DNA, so it has not like.
I don't think it has to do with DNA. I think it has to do with the consciousness. And if AI develops a consciousness that says I'm going to die if I let these humans shut me off, it's going to do whatever it can to survive.
I just don't think that you can have it. Like I said, it's artificial intelligence. It's not attached to anything.
Not yet. I mean, as of yes, it is. As of now, it is. But is it always going to be? I don't know. It could develop that survival instinct. And if it does, and we're embracing it the way that we do now, we're all done for. All of us.
I don't know. I'm lost to at that point because I just don't see how it's possible.
And listen, I want to make it clear to our listeners. You've known me for a long time, so you know this about me. I'm not a prepper. I'm not a zombie apocalypse guy. I'm not all these other things because I don't think those are going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't. The only thing that could potentially happen worse than this, that would be a real reality that could happen, and is more likely to happen before what I'm afraid of, is a nuclear holocaust. For sure. That is a real possibility well prior to AI. Absolutely. But I'm still not a prepper for that stuff. I'm not. I'm not going to pretend that I am. But
I have a lot of tinfoil for you.
Thank you. But here's the difference. People are aware of the dangers of nuclear weapons, right? They may not live in daily fear of it, sure, but they're aware of the dangers. If you get the wrong person behind a button, and I know we made the joke earlier, but seriously, if you get the wrong person behind a button of a nuclear weapon that can launch one at any country, not just USA, any country, there's going to be real global ramifications. I may not wipe us all out, but there's going to be real global ramifications of a nuclear attack from one country to another, right?
Well, yeah, that's the point of them.
Right. So, if there is a attack by a new nation of sentient beings, guess what?
I'm not seeing this vision of yours because
I'm saying, listen, I'm not saying it's
because
going
here's
to happen.
the thing.
I'm saying we need to be prepared. Wait, Jules. I want you to say your point, but I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm afraid it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going. There are people that probably think, and I'm not saying I know anyone in particular, that already believe it's definitely going to happen. I don't believe it's definitely going to happen. What I'm afraid of is that we, as a society, are not preparing for the possibility. That's my biggest concern, and we're relying on it to think for us. That's my bigger concerns.
Here's the thing, is you're worried that people are embracing it, and here's the thing. All the things like diseases and nuclear weapons, nobody's embracing them because they are built to actually destroy people. Like, legit, that's their job. Like, nobody builds a nuclear weapon thinking, oh, this will be a nice umbrella for somebody one day.
Hey, Jules, where do you think nuclear power comes from?
But, yes, but that perfect example. Thank you for bringing for saying that.
Because I'm saying that's built for a positive, though, not a negative.
No, I get that. But I said weapon. There's a very distinct difference between nuclear power, which I didn't say power, I said weapon. Nuclear weapons were legit created for the purpose of destruction.
Sure.
Nuclear power, people do embrace because there's a lot of things that you would power with it that is helpful for productivity. So it's not a destructive thing automatically.
I would argue, do we have nuclear weapons if we didn't have nuclear power? I'm not against nuclear power, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying I think there's a causality going on.
So in its infancy, nuclear power was created essentially not for the purpose of creating a weapon, because humans decided that they wanted to make a weapon out of it because it made a great weapon.
That's my point, though, Jules. I'm saying.
But it started out as wanting to find a power source that was better than the fossil fuels of yesterday. Right.
Okay, so
but then when we realized the potential for weaponry and war, because humans always like to create war, that's the best thing that they've created since the sliced bread. Is
maybe before sliced bread, but that's beside the point. Yeah.
And so now we just know about nuclear weapons, and its original purpose got pushed aside.
Right, so that's kind of my point, though, Jules. Right, so AI, to your same example, and I agree with you. So 100% with you on everything you just said. Nothing you said is untrue or not factual in some capacity, right? AI is being created today in 2026 with positive impact. It's meant to be positively impactful. Just like nuclear power was meant to be positively impactful. Now, there's not environmental conditions. I get that. But I'm saying there was a positive design behind nuclear power. We agree? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, to your point, humans do stupid shit, and we ended up with nuclear weapons, and here we are. And even the creator of it, Oppenheimer, goes, ew, that was kind of a bad idea. You know what I mean? So at least he acknowledged that. Same thing. We're creating AI with the intent for positive impact on the human race. Right?
Agreed.
But there is a negative side of this that nobody's considering. Or very few people are considering.
I don't think that that's true, because here's the thing. The difference between nuclear power and AI is that nuclear power was not readily available to the masses.
That's just a matter of era, right? If AI had been somehow developed at the same time as nuclear power, I think you'd have the same distribution issues.
Maybe, but here's the thing: nuclear power is just more volatile in its nature. So
how is AI not volatile?
It's not.
I just laid out an hour and a half for the volatility.
No, you didn't. You laid out an hour and a half of tinfoil rhetoric.
Oh bullshit.
When was the last time that somebody went to go do an experiment with AI and it blew up their fucking laptop and the whole building it was in?
Well, we just don't know about it.
Really?
Listen, first off, I feel, based on what you just said, I feel like it's important to say that all the opinions I've expressed today are solely my own.
Yes, we need to make sure that we all know that I don't agree with CJ.
I meant that I'm not buying into other people's rhetoric is what I meant. These are solely my thoughts.
Yeah. Yes.
I've had three martinis through this, by the way, just so you know.
How about
the fact that I'm still functioning very well is pretty impressive, I would say.
I have a matcha.
I saw that. Did you give up on? Did you finish your habanero, whatever, anything?
I did. Yes. Yes. My glass is empty.
You'll have to explain to me off air what a matcha is because I don't even fully fucking understand that. But that's a different conversation. I don't want to pivot to that. I want to focus on what we're talking about. But listen,
you don't want to talk about matcha now.
After
what
2+ hours of
matcha, man.
Clearly, I'm not that because I don't even know what the fuck it is. But anyway, I just want to make sure that we, as a society, understand the dangers of everything, and I don't think that we always do. Again, not even talking about AI. To your point about nuclear power, there was a danger to that people didn't anticipate, and it turned into nuclear weapons. And now you and I specifically live in a world where nuclear war is possible at any time. Fortunately, for the most part, cooler heads have prevailed, and people aren't using them as threateningly as they used to. But you and I weren't around for it. But think about, we both went through school. We learned the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was a real thing where people were building bomb shelters in their backyards, especially in your neck of the woods, because of how close it is to Cuba. And, fortunately, we got through it. And maybe we get through a section with AI similarly. And I don't know it'll be as localized as something, say, Cuba. But maybe that's it, but there's still this potential. I guess my biggest concern is that nobody's, or at least the bulk of society, is not considering the possibilities. I genuinely feel like, with the exception of the extremists that are hurting people, which again I'm never going to condone, that I am in the minority of people in the way that I think about AI. I know I am, and I'm okay with that, but I wish I wasn't, if I'm being honest.
Okay. I mean, I've pretty much, we've run the gambit of.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. We've ran the wheel, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. I listen. Like I said, and I think it's a good way to top us off because we've been at this for a while. I hope I'm wrong. I really want. There's nothing I've had an opinion on in the 46 years I've been alive that I want to be more wrong about than this. But I'm afraid I'm not.
Right.
That's really where it is. At the bottom line, that's where it is. I hope I'm wrong. There's nothing that I've ever had an opinion on in my life, whether it be personal or globally, that I want to be wrong about than this.
I get it.
So, anyway, I've said my piece.
Said your piece.
Yeah.
Your pieces. So, well, all things must come to an end, CJ, and sadly, this is the end of this episode. But join us next time when the wheel spins to a new day and topic. See you at the next spin.